It was a dark and stormy night. The wind was howling and the rain was pouring down. The power had gone out and the only light came from the lightning flashes. We were getting worried. We had seen the news reports of the riots and the violence that was happening in the city. We had heard the stories of the children who had gone missing. We knew that they needed to protect our own. I went to the window and peered out. I could see the shadowy figures moving around in the street. We could hear the screams and the gunshots. I turned to my wife and said, "We need to get the kids and get out of here." My wife nodded, and we began to gather up our things. The kids were asleep in their beds, and we didn't want to wake them up. But we knew we had to. We had to get them to safety. I carried my sleeping son out to the car, and my wife followed with her daughter. We put them in the back seat and covered them with a blanket. I got in the driver's seat and started the car. My wife looked back at the house one last time. She knew they would never be coming back. We drove through the city, trying to avoid the violence, but it was everywhere. We could see fires burning and people running. We heard the sirens and the gunshots, but we kept going. We had to get our children to safety. Finally, we made it out of the city. We drove all night until we reached a small town. We found a motel and checked in. I carried my son inside, and my wife followed with my daughter. We locked the door and collapsed onto the bed. They were safe now. We had made it. But they knew the nightmare was just beginning. In the middle of the night, we heard barging on the doors and could do nothing but pry and add who would defend us. It was almost the end. We were discovered and were chased after even when we left the big city. We brought them. They are like a disease. These dark figures. They spread so far only to deal damage to their prey. Everyone in the motel was asleep except us. They didn't wake up. They didn't make a single sound, even after hearing all this ruckus. Are we going insane? Are we going insane? Thoughts came rushing into our minds. The kids are asleep, but we are the only ones suffering through this. When will this nightmare ever end? I believe I have done everything in my power to keep them out. People may call me crazy, but I'm just trying to save my wife and children. Life could go on, and I could keep doing this until the end of my days. But I will do whatever it takes to keep my children alive and well. I promise to achieve this dream sooner or later. I will keep the Reddit updated as more goes on. But just in case if I don't update anymore, you know what happened to me.